everybody. I'm Pierre Bouvard, Chief Insights Officer here at the Audio Active Group at Cumulus Media in Westwood One. And today we're focusing on the very latest on the auto aftermarket category. Each year here at the Audio Active Group, we conduct a national study of auto parts shoppers. And this year we surveyed 1,000 Americans who had made a purchase for auto parts over the last 2 years. Quantilope conducted the study, and we found 4 key takeaways from this year's study, which conducted in September of 2025. First, audio listeners are big spenders in the auto parts category. Heavy AM and FM radio listeners spend 26% more annually than the average shopper, and heavy podcast listeners are right behind them, spending 22% more than the average. So the best customers of the auto parts category are also the biggest audio listeners. And within the world of audio, there is a golden category of sports radio, and that is the home of heavy, ultra heavy shoppers in the category. Those are consumers that are making 10 or more shopping trips in the last year, and they are especially found in the play-by-play broadcast on the radio of the NFL, NCAA football, basketball, both men's and women's, the NBA, and the NHL. Now, retail players in the category over the last year have upped their allocation to social media, a pretty big increase at the expense of linear TV and radio. However, it is the heavy audio consumers that are actually spending more in the category annually than heavy social media users. And another finding, we see this every year, is that services are a great category entry point for younger consumers. So let's take a look at total ad spending in the category, courtesy of Media Radar. Over the last 5 years, the total ad spend in the category has been on the rise. This year saw a big uptick with almost $500 million being spent across all media and all the players in the category. In 2025, Media Radar says a total of $469 million was spent in the category. Now, where they're spending that money has shifted pretty dramatically between 24 and 25. The proportion of total spend in the category devoted to social media grew strongly from 12% to 21%, and that came at the expense of both linear TV and AM/FM radio. Now let's take a look at share of spend in the category, or share of voice, by the major players. So AutoZone historically has been a leading spender in the category, usually outspending the next retailer by almost 2 to 1. And that really was the case up until 2023, when you see O'Reilly's really starting to increase its share of spend in the category. And in the most recent reading, the AutoZone share of spend took a big uptick from 23% in 24 to 30%. Tied for second is Firestone and O'Reilly's at a 20 share of voice. And then everyone after that is in the single digits or low double digits. In the category of auto part shoppers, there are 3 critical subsegments. Mega milers, consumers who clock more than 200 or more miles in their vehicle each week. Do-it-yourselfers, obviously those who prefer to do their own repairs. And then ultra heavy auto parts shoppers. Those are consumers that shop the category 10 or more times in the past 2 years. So let's take a look at these 3 key segments and see how much they actually spend in the category. Now, our latest study reveals that the average shopper in the category in a year is spending about $626. The ultra heavy auto parts shoppers, those that are making 10 or more shopping occasions in the past 2 years, are spending 33% more annually than the average. But look to the right of your screen at the mega milers. Those are people that are clocking some serious miles in their car, 200 or more miles per week. Not surprisingly, this segment are major users of auto parts spending on average 44% more annually than the average. Now, services are a critical aspect if you're looking for the younger demos in the category. Now, every year we ask how interested consumers would be in getting maintenance and service offerings like fluid changes, etc. Now, it's important to note we're asking this question just within auto parts shoppers. This is not a survey of all Americans, but we consistently find that the younger the consumer, the more they say that services will influence their selection of a retailer. You can see 38% of 1834 say that services tied to auto parts is a key driver of retail selection for them. Now, one of the things we've obviously spent a lot of time looking at over the last decade is time spent in car. The pandemic took time spent in car down, but those levels have roared back, and not surprisingly, so has radio listening. Here from Edison Share of Ear, we look at the proportion of total radio time spent occurring in the car. Now, pre-pandemic, it was around 50% of all US radio tuning minutes occurred in the car. That took a big dip down during the pandemic. But since 2023, we have snapped back, and the car is right back to being 50% of all radio time spent. Now, when folks are in the car and you have a variety of ad-supported platforms to choose from, who is the leading media platform in the car for ad-supported audio? Well, look no further than AM/FM radio. According to the most recent Edison Share of Ear, AM/FM has an 84 share, 84 of in-car ad-supported audio. And this number has been pretty much in the mid to upper 80s over the last 11 years that Edison's been conducting the Share of Ear study. Everyone else in the category of audio, ad-supported platforms are in the low to single digits. Now, the reoccurring theme through this research is the heaviest auto parts consumers are also the heaviest audio consumers. So let's take a look at heavy radio listeners, heavy podcast listeners, heavy social media users, and heavy TV viewers, and let's look what their annual spend in the category is. Now, the average for the category is $626, but we can see both the heavy podcast and heavy radio listeners are spending substantially more in the category than heavy social media users or heavy TV viewers. Now, this is critical because we saw a major shift in spend to social media, yet it's the heavy audio consumer that is outspending all other media segments on auto parts. Now, if we look at that heavy, ultra heavy, 10 or more shopping occasion consumer in the past 2 years, how likely are they to be heavy radio listeners? Well, the likelihood goes way up. So overall, 1 out of 5 in this study are heavy radio listeners. But look at the mega milers. Not surprisingly, 31% of mega milers who are big spenders in the auto parts category are heavy radio listeners. The ultra heavy shoppers, much more likely to be heavy radio listeners, even the do-it-yourselfers. So if you want to find the ultra heavy, the mega milers, the do-it-yourselfers, all of them big spenders in the category, look no further than AM/FM radio. Now let's take a look at where you can find ultra heavy consumers in the auto parts category across podcast genres and radio programming formats. So here you can see among the heavy auto parts shoppers, there is a wide diversity of radio programming formats you can find that heavy shopper on. And among the ultra heavy shoppers, and you look for podcast genres, again, it's a wide array of podcast genres where you can find heavy shoppers in the category. Now, one area of particular focus to find the ultra heavy shoppers is none other than AM/FM sports radio. If you take a look at the shoppers, and to the left of your screen are light, medium, heavy, and then ultra heavy shoppers, the more shopping trips people conduct the more likely they are to be a listener to sports on the radio. And when you think about sports, you think about play-by-play broadcasts. And among the heavy auto parts shoppers, look at all of the play-by-play that these ultra heavy shoppers consume. You have the NFL, you have NCAA college football, along with NCAA college basketball, both men's and women's. You have the NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL. So sports is a sweet spot to reach auto parts shoppers, especially play-by-play broadcasters. So let's take a look now at the major retailers in the category, and we're going to score them across a number of brand equity measures. We're going to look at unaided awareness of the brands, aided awareness, shopping behavior, shopped in the past year, shopped the most. We measured about 19 different brand images. Here's the average brand image across those 19 attributes, and then we'll have ad recall, and then lastly, we'll average these 6 measures of brand equity. So now let's look at the top players in the category. AutoZone is the leader across all of the brand equity measures. Number 2, O'Reilly. Then you have folks that are shopping for auto parts at Walmart, pretty much tied for 3rd with Advance Auto Parts. Now, you will notice that when people are asked to think of retailers in the auto parts category, Walmart is not a brand that people come right to mind. However, when you look at the shopping behavior, they are very, very competitive. So let's look at the next 4 players. We see that those that are purchasing auto parts at Amazon are pretty close in profile and brand equity measures to Advance Auto Parts. Again, Amazon, people don't necessarily think of them for auto parts, yet when you look down at the actual behavior, you see pretty strong behavior there. And then rounding out the brands in brand equity, Napa, Pep Boys, and Firestone Complete Auto Care. So the 4 key findings here. The best place to find heavy shoppers in the auto parts category, of course, is audio. Heavy radio listeners, heavy podcast consumers, they are spending way more than the average. And the real sweet spot for targeting ultra heavy auto parts shoppers is the sports radio format, and especially radio play-by-play broadcasters across a whole variety of sports. It looks like the spending on social media is in excess of the importance of the auto parts shopping among the heavy social users, because the heavy audio consumers are spending more than the heavy social media consumers. And lastly, something we've seen over the last couple of years, if you're looking for a category entry point among young consumers, services seem to be a strong motivator and a driver of retail selection. The Audio Active Group here at Cumulus Media in Westwood One is a full-service national brand advisory. We offer measurement services, including brand lift, sales effect, search and site attribution, creative pre-testing, and each and every week we publish a new audio case study or insight, and you can find it on our blog at cumulusmedia.com or westwood1.com. And when you're there, you can sign up to get the weekly audio insight and case study sent directly to your email box. Thanks so much for the opportunity to share with you the very latest on the auto parts category from the Audio Active Group. Thanks so much.